We've had earthquake swarms at Yellowstone supervolcano, at the Caldera, which is sitting right on top of the magma chamber. Does that mean that an eruption is coming? We know that the geologists are warning us that in case of an eruption we will have signs such as deformation, an uptick in hydrothermal activity, earthquake swarms, gas emissions, magma chamber deformations. Well, we've had all these basically, and now we have the swarms in the Yellowstone Lake. We're not talking about West Thumb Lake and Old Geyser, though those are rocking as well. But these are the swarms right on top of the roof of the magma chamber, sitting underneath the Yellowstone caldera. This is the caldera is, of course, the lake. It's a very big lake, and the geologists have explained to us that even the waves slapping on the surface of the lake could cause earthquakes, which is worrying for the roof of the magma chamber, because a supervolcano, they tell us, does not act at all as regular volcanoes act. A supervolcano's magma chamber has a bigger roof, which means that it is more susceptible to earthquakes. On top of it, such as the lake which is on top of it, and even earthquakes that are at a distance away. Now, we're talking about the specific caldera earthquake swarms, because we've had earthquake swarms, we're having them in areas around the caldera, such as Montana, near Helena, Montana, which is northwest of the lake. And as you see in the video just before this one, the geologists of the University of Utah and Arizona have explained to us that that is where there is another magma plume right there. That was part of another eruption, an older ancient eruption, and yes, there is a magma plume there. That's why we're also having quake swarms there as well. So what does this mean? This is the Yellowstone Volcano Observatory USGS facts, and they are given to us here by Sean Martin of Express UK. The series of tremors, the earthquake swarms that have struck Yellowstone within this week, which could be a sign of the supervolcano, which is, as we know, a deadly supervolcano. USGS has it listed as a potential threat. It's a hazard. So supervolcano could erupt, they say, is it a sign that it could erupt at any moment or soon? Since May 1st, 8 earthquakes have rocked the caldera. As we know, it sits in the caldera, it sits at the northwest portion of Wyoming, bordering with Montana and Idaho. And the scientists have previously warned that the series of rumbles and tremors could be a warning sign, as they told us. One of the warning signs. The other is, as we said, deformation, gas emissions, and the like. The largest of the relatively small quakes was at magnitude 2.4 on May 4th, according to statistics from the U.S. Geological Survey. Now, they record a lot more than they report. If you look at the quakes that they're recording, there are tens of times more than what they're reporting. But it's not physically possible for them to be posting every single tiny little tremor. If you want, though, you can go to Seismo Berkeley and see them on your own. Now, okay, they say that there were 8. The biggest of them was the 2.4. May 4th. Tremors in the area show no signs of slowing down, with 63 earthquakes hitting in the month of April, the largest being at a 2.6. Well, that's not so. because we had a 5 Richter downgraded to a 4.4, which they never came back to us to explain to us why that was and what that would mean. That we were waiting for the Caldera Chronicles to explain that to us. They come out every week, as we know, and they did not say anything. They did not refer to that quake whatsoever. That was closer to Yellowstone. It was west of Yellowstone, just south of Helena, Montana. I marked it on my Google Earth, so it's there permanently with a pin so that we always refer to that when we look at that. So they did not refer to that, unfortunately. And there was it was not a number of 63, there were a lot more. Many, many more. Now, this could be a sign of imminent eruption, according to some scientists. Portland State University geology professor emeritus Scott Burns previously said that a group of small tremors around a volcano usually shows that magma and gases beneath the surface are beginning to navigate towards an exit. Okay, there's 3 ways that you have tremors. You have it from magma, you have it from gas emissions, and you also have it from water, hydrothermal activity, like steamboat, the geysers and the fumaroles and mud pots and things. Steaming geysers. He said if you get swarms under a working volcano, the working hypothesis is that magma is moving up underneath there. But others disagree about whether an earthquake swarm near a volcano could be a sign of things to come, in the event, for example, an eruption. Jamie Farrell, she's at the University of Utah in Salt Lake City, believes that this is just part of the natural cycle of what Yellowstone volcano does. She says earthquake swarms are fairly common in Yellowstone. There is no indication that this swarm is related to magma moving through the shallow crust. If the volcano were to erupt in a similar fashion to the explosion of 70,000 years ago, its last eruption, it would kill an estimated 87,000 people immediately and make 2/3 of the US immediately uninhabitable. Okay, she's talking about the 70,000 years ago. Now, if it's making 2/3 of the US uninhabitable, what did the super eruptions of 630,000 years ago do? Now, we've also, if you see the videos before this one, having to do with Yellowstone, they come up with 23 eruptions since the 70,000, 40 eruptions since the 70,000 years, 60 and 80 eruptions since the 70,000 years ago. At one point, I think it was Lowenstein who said that the eruptions take place just about every 1,000 years. So what is it? Is it 23 eruptions since 70,000 years ago, or is it 80 eruptions since 70,000? Well, it depends on the size, I guess, what you would call eruption. Because 630,000 years ago, they had a double twin eruption, which they counted as one eruption, whereas it was 2, and it was 170 years apart. And both of those eruptions had tremendous ashfall and created volcanic winters. But they counted it as one eruption. They're always, of course, testing, and they're finding new details as to the ages of the rocks, the type of ash, etc. They do that by the crystal testing of the crystals in the rocks. And to our surprise, they had a double volcanic winter from the ash spewed out from Yellowstone at the 630,000 year super eruption, which had the twin eruption of 170 years apart. Now, going back to this, the large spew of ash into the atmosphere at that time, or if it happens again, would block out sunlight and directly affect life beneath it, creating a nuclear winter, or what we call the volcanic winter, we call a nuclear winter. The massive eruption could be a staggering 6,000 times as powerful as the one from Washington's Mount St. Helens in 1980, that deposited ash in 11 different states and 5 Canadian provinces. So if this volcano explodes, there would be a climate shift and would ensue as the volcano spews this massive amounts of ash and amounts of, as we know, sulfur dioxide, carbon dioxide. The sulfur dioxide becomes acid. It goes up and it comes back down as acid and acid rain. And it sits in the atmosphere, which is poisonous, of course, which can form a sulfur aerosol that reflects and absorbs sunlight. Scientists say earthquakes in Yellowstone should be taken seriously for many other reasons as well. It's not a passing matter. In a 2014 lecture, that's where Jacob Lowenstein, the lead scientist in charge of monitoring Yellowstone supervolcano, explained how major earthquakes in the area could cause landslides. And he said that the last big one was in 1959 that caused a big landslide that I think there was about a 7 Richter or 7.2 Richter. And he explained that it's not only dangerous because of the visitors there, it's also because it keeps the area rocking for decades after that. And it was Lowenstein who, in one of his previous statements at that lecture, told us and explained to us that we had 80 eruptions in Yellowstone since the last eruption of 70,000 years ago. And he said it's just about every 1,000 years that we should expect an eruption. Now, some agree with him, some do not agree. Some geologists don't agree with him. Some believe that there's a Godzilla under Yellowstone, and God forbid if that Godzilla, the sleeping giant, wakes up. One of these scientists is Dr. Michio Kaku of City University. Others say not to worry, maybe it will never even erupt at all. That's just wishful thinking, I believe. It is one of the biggest supervolcanoes in the world. And not only that, it's very close to other supervolcanoes in the area. The one that was in Idaho, right in the path of the hotspots that were leading to Yellowstone, where it is today, the Caldera today. And if you take that, extrapolate that line all the way back down, it goes right into the Long Valley caldera of California. And if you see one of the previous videos I just posted today, having to do with the fact that the magma plume is believed to be connected to the volcanoes in the Cascadia area, Oregon and Washington State. So that's bad news too. It's a subduction zone. There is the Phaleron plate lodged underneath the magma chamber as well, as they found. It's a very specific location that could give very, very big quakes. They're expecting the big one in California, and it's not that far from there towards the Rocky Mountains where we find Yellowstone. If you'd like to join me on my Patreon account, you will hear content not covered by mainstream media. These riveting stories will be based on my research, and I will state my opinions and give my personal insight on diverse and controversial subjects and world events not covered by mainstream media, and not supported by YouTube guidelines. So whatever I have on my Patreon, most of those will not be on my YouTube channel. Please consider becoming a member today. More of the most significant and important videos will be on my Patreon channel. Your support helps me to continue my research and keeps this YouTube channel alive. And we depend on your support, your generous charity, because we help economically challenged families here in Athens, Greece, in Kapota, and we also help the young generation with university tuition and the community around our church. Thank you.